Welcome back to No Box. Today I've got Amanda Sullender going over her second place finishing Silver Age Battle Hardened Seattle Bravo Flattering Showman deck. Finally, that is a tongue twister. I don't know why. Anyways, she's another local hero that's making waves at some events around Washington. Considering Silver Age is such a new and exciting format, I thought it'd be a good idea to get her in here and review how she almost took down the whole deck, or not the whole deck, the whole event on her Bravo deck. I know I have to figure out what I'm playing in Sage. I was thinking Ira. I was thinking Chain. I don't know if I'm smart enough for Chain, but I'm gonna have to figure that out. I'm curious if you guys know what you're gonna be playing, and if so, drop it down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about Silver Age. I'm all ears or all eyes. That turns it into words in my brain that I hear inside my head. Anyways, one last thing before we dive into this. If you haven't already and you would be so kind, can you drop a like and a subscribe and a comment if you think I've earned it? Don't just give it to me, but if you think this content is worth the extra couple clicks, I would really appreciate it. YouTube's got their own meta that they follow, and just like Flesh and Blood, and theirs is comments and subscriptions and likes and engagement and watch time, all that stuff. You don't got to do everything, but if anything does help, I do appreciate it. With all that said and done, away we go. All right, Amanda, welcome to No Blocks. We got you here because, well, you did pretty well. Here that I didn't get to go to the calling, but I heard you come in second with
Well, not in the calling,
not
but
the calling,
at
but the
the
Battle
Battle
Hardened.
Garden
Calling as an
after the
event, as a
calling.
weekend event. You went to that, and then you placed second at the Battle Hardened.
Yes, it was very exciting. It's the best that I've done at a Flesh and Blood event, and I'm very excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So for the people who don't know you, or the people that will come to know you from watching this video, because thousands are going to flock, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so my name is Amanda Sullender. I'm here in Spokane, Washington, which is on the east side of the state here, and I I'm a local journalist here. I write for the newspaper, and then I also play Flesh and Blood on the side, which I've been doing. Um, I started playing right before Rosetta came out. In fact, I remember it was the week of my first Armory. Was the book banning.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and so and so that was sort of the starting point with my Flesh and Blood journey, and I've gotten really into it since then. Been going to some bigger events, mostly more locally, for the past year. Um, Doing okay, and now I've gotten this really cool experience getting second at a Battle Hardened.
Which is quite the feat. I know when I started playing, literally, I think about a year ago, like if not to the week, somewhere around there. Started playing right before Hunted came out. You were the local Vincent player, and I think you probably still are.
Mhm.
But I see you pivoted off of Rune. Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank right now. Rune Blades. There we
Runeblade.
go. I got. It's not
Yeah,
like I do Flesh and Blood every single day, but yeah, you were the local Vincent player on that, and I remember you used to dog walk me when I was on Syndra. So I'm glad that's over, for better or worse. So what made you go with a Guardian?
yeah. So looking at Sage, and I guess just generally my philosophy, just since we're talking about my uh heroes, I started with Rosetta. At my first pre-release, I opened to Face Purgatory, and so I made Florian as my first hero, and that's definitely been my primary hero, and then I branched off to other rune blades. And so I've been mainly playing Florian when I've gone to bigger tournaments. It's what I feel comfortable with. It's not the most difficult deck to play.
Uh,
Um, but more recently, as I feel like I've gotten better, I kind of, because I had been playing Florian and other Rune Blades, whether they were really the best deck or not, and I wanted to move towards trying to figure out what would be the best meta call going into tournaments, and so that's how I landed on. I played Syndra at the Calling, which I did. I went 3-3 and dropped in the Calling, and then I played Bravo, Flattering Showman for the Sage Battle Hardened. As um, for deck selection, with that, I had really started when I was testing
Mhm.
with Chain, which I think is probably
The boogeyman.
with Ideal Play is the best deck in the format right now. Is Chain.
Yeah.
The problem is that it's a very difficult deck to play. I had previously played some commoner events, and I had played Chain and Commoner, and the deck is fairly similar.
Hmm.
But as I was testing Chain, I kept finding myself getting fatigued, and I came to realize that um, even as I've gotten better as a player, I would probably get better playing a deck that was easier to pilot. And then also, I didn't think that because the metagame is so new and the format is so new and things aren't really figured out, I knew that if I brought Chain, I wouldn't have the best Chain deck in the room. And I looked at, the two Chain players, the person who eventually won the Battle Hardened and Jude Cornette's list, who I defeated in the top 8, and I thought both their lists were much better than the chain lists that I was working on ahead of the event. And so ultimately, even though I think, you know, if you have the best chain list and you're the best chain player, I think chain is probably the best thing you can be doing in Sage right now.
Uh huh.
I felt really happy with my choice. Now, how I got to Flattering Showman specifically was I looked at the results at the Battle Hardened in Valencia, which is really the only other large Sage event that had happened up to this point of
Yeah.
Seattle.
I think there was
And
there
there
was
was,
one in like Japan too, wasn't there? Like the first one.
I think
And I think Chain
that's
won that too, right?
coming up. I don't think it's happened yet. Um, I think because there are three that are happening before 10 comes out.
Yeah.
Um, and I think this was the second one, and then there's another one in Japan
Yeah. I
later.
could be wrong, but I could have sworn there was one in like Japan or somewhere, and it was just a Sage event. And I think Chain won that too, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I'll
maybe,
fact check
I don't know.
myself later. Remind myself.
Sure. Um, anyway, and so in that tournament in Valencia, there were two Bravo Flattering Showmen in the top 8.
Hmm.
But looking through the list at the time, there was only 6 Bravo decks in the field,
Yeah.
and 2 of them made into the top 8.
So
And
that had
I
a high
think
conversion.
all but one of the 6 copies were in like the top 32 or were in the winning half of
Yeah.
the list. And so I felt like this hero specifically in this deck really outperformed those, which looking at the metagame spread for the event in Seattle, I think a lot of other people came to the same conclusion that I did because I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Bravo was the most represented hero at the Battle Hardened. The reason why I think it's a good choice here is because it has a very simple game plan, which is to set up really large dominated attacks through arsenaling a crush effect and then sending it out. and it's really hard at the moment for decks to deal with those attacks, and
Yeah.
they can usually block one of
Dominate
the on hit.
is something else in Sage.
Yeah, dominate. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you're cheating, but it's part of the game. That's one thing that's like making me iffy on Sage. Like I'm gonna play it obviously because they're doing it for the pro quest and all
Hmm.
that. But it just seems like yeah, like from my cursory glance at it, I'm like, oh, brutes and guardians have to be the best. And obviously I don't know everything because apparently chain is the best. But I'm like, oh, you just send really big attacks. What are you gonna do? You have 20 health. You slip 10 through one turn, and you're like, oh well, I'm on the back foot.
Yeah, I will say, and perhaps it's just because of a bias of doing well at an event, and so feeling good about it for that reason. But I have a lot of the same concerns over Sage at the moment. I will say, after playing Sage at a higher level, I was making a lot of, like, for the most part, and I will, in when we're breaking down the games, I'll say when when that was not the case. But for the most part, these games weren't games that were over in a minute. They were games where it was going back and forth, and we were each making decisions.
Yeah,
And and it was because of those decisions that someone won or lost. And so I think there's more skill expression in it than I necessarily anticipated going into it, and I am hopeful that some of those more feel bad aspects of a 20 life format, hopefully with the addition of the cards and pen, it'll be a little bit more filled out in terms of having some answers to, um, you know, uh, some of the big dominated
yeah.
attacks or
I assume that
intimidate
they
or.
they did some sort of. They sound like they've done a lot of testing from what LSS is saying, so I'll have faith
Yeah,
until proven otherwise.
sure.
Yeah, and it's probably also it's just my own ignorance. I haven't really played too much Sage. I'm used to CC, so I'm used to having 40 health and using that as a resource. But when you have 20 health and you take 10 damage, you're like, oh, I have no more resources of health left to play with. So, but
Yeah.
yeah. And then, so you made top eight, obviously, and then you made top two. Just want to go over quick who you played in the top eight to get to the last match.
In the top eight, I had gotten to the end of the tournament, and in the last round of Swiss, I had played Jude Cornett, who's a really
Yeah,
well-known player. I don't remember exactly what his finishes are, but he's had some really big finishes. And he's obviously a really great player, and he was undefeated in Swiss, and I played him in the last round, and I had lost, and had bubbled into top eight on eighth seed. Um,
we take those.
we do. It was very nerve-wracking, actually, when I had sat down with Jude for the last round. We were in, the first seat, um, of the tournament, and he told me before we started playing the game that he had considered resigning to me, to ensure I got in the top eight, but that he thought that I was locked for top eight regardless. I was a bit more skeptical of that because I had started the day with a loss in round one, and
Ooh,
then I didn't lose again until the last round of Swiss,
yeah, those round
against
one
Jude.
losses always sting the most.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that one specifically, you had mentioned Brute earlier. My round one was against Reinar,
Ooh,
which is not a well represented deck in Sage right now, but I think it maybe should be, especially if
that wasn't
Guardians
that
can.
wasn't Drew running around on Reinar, was it?
It was not Drew, although I have shown him the deck list. I got the deck list from my opponent there, and he said that he probably should have played Reinar. But the goal of my opponent's deck in the first round was just to intimidate your whole hand and
And
send
then,
big attack.
yep. What are you gonna do?
Which is particularly effective against Guardian, which can struggle to convert 4 card hands
Yeah.
on offense. And so I think I had sent an attack on turn 0 in that first round against Reinar. He kept behind 2 cards that said Intimidate on them, the pumps. I forget what they're called.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the pumps that intimidate if you don't block. And he even blocked with his armor on turn 0 to keep those cards. And then he just, for 2 turns in a row, he intimidated my whole hand and just killed me within 2 turns. And that was the first round of the tournament. Um, and so, yeah, that certainly didn't. That wasn't the best start to the day,
Yeah.
I will say.
But you
Um,
rallied.
I did, and what's actually really interesting is that player, the Reinar, um, he did really well in Swiss as well, and we ended up with the same record. And we were fighting over each other for who bubbled into top 8. So I got 8th place, and he got 9th place, which
How
is
did you
just
bubble
crazy
if he beat you?
because I believe I lost him in round 1. But my second loss was in the last round, and I think his second loss was in the
Earlier
second to
stages.
last round.
Two early losses
Oh,
versus one in the beginning, one in the end.
yeah. Um, which I'm certainly not an expert on tiebreakers, so I don't know
Yeah.
exactly how it worked, but it was pretty crazy to think about that the person I lost to in the first round ended up, you
Feels good
know,
though, right?
uh, yeah, right there. Um, so yeah, that was the start of the day. Do you want me to go through my Swiss rounds or go back to
No,
the
we could just
top
skip
8?
straight to the juicy details of the top 8.
Sure. So I had lost to Jude in the last round of Swiss,
Mm-hmm.
and so he was first seed. He was undefeated. I was eighth seed. So we got repaired in the top 8, except this time I had won the die roll in the game that I lost against him, but because he was higher seed, he got to choose first versus second.
Yeah.
And as chain, you always want to go first. Um, uh, my hero also generally wants to go first. So, it's a pretty big advantage, but, we go through the whole game, and, I am dominating him. He's ahead for a lot of the game, but then I was able to set up a turn where I got to CNC pummel in Sage, which is kind of crazy because you have Fault Line, which is a new crush card from the Mastery Pack
Uh huh.
that crushes will put Arsenal on the bottom. And then I was able to pummel that,
So a
and so he
soft
blocked
CNC. Soft CNC.
stop CNC, but he had blocked 3 cards. I CNC'd the pummel. It got rid of his arsenal and his remaining card in hand. And so then he didn't have any crackback and he took some damage on Blood Debt. And so then I had all the tempo and I was able to keep going, and he wasn't able to get the tempo back enough to deal me enough damage before I fatigued him. And so that is how that match ended.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
A little bit of
I think
revenge.
it was a little bit. I was not expecting going into the top 8. I was like, I got into the top 8.
Just
This is
happy
so
to be
great.
there.
Yeah, I'm happy to be there. I was so like nervous going into it because it feels so awful to bubble out of something like that when you're so close. And so I was not. I just lost to him before. He's obviously a better player than I am. I think. I don't know.
I mean, I don't
Um,
know. Results say otherwise.
I suppose so. It's certainly the game that mattered the most. I won, and that's what counts. Um, and uh, and then I went on to play Ellie, Ellie Bird, who obviously is really well known
Yeah. I've heard
within
that
the
name
fab.
once or twice.
Yep, yep. Maybe seen her, doing coverage. I certainly have before.
Yeah.
And I've met her a couple times, but not really well
She's
before. And so,
relatively local to Seattle, right? Like, is she in Canada or?
yeah, I think she and Yuki are like in the Vancouver area. I think I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Um, but she was on Briar, which I think is it can be a tricky matchup, but it's pretty good. It can be hard to get the space to set up really big dominated attacks, and if you give them too much room, then they can just keep attacking at you.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's probably favored for Bravo in general. I'm not sure. I will say this was probably the most stressful match of the top eight, interestingly, because I made a big misplay on turn zero,
Oh,
which then kind of I was reeling for several turns after and trying to get back to a point
trying to
where I
course
was,
correct. Yeah.
yeah, course correct and feeling good. And from that misplay, I was on the back foot the whole game. What had happened on turn zero is I had in my sideboard is Arcane Polarity,
Mm-hmm.
which I brought in to gain back life from uh, arcane damage. But I drew on turn zero. I drew an all red hand, and it had two arcane polarities. And so I'm like, if I don't use any of these cards, then um, my hand doesn't do anything
Yeah.
on my next turn. Um, and Ellie's going first. I'm going second. And Ellie, she um, plays an Arcane Seeds life, so she has Arcane. She gains a life up to 21. And then she plays a pump. But then she moves to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decide, okay, I'm going to play an Arcane Polarity to gain a life, and maybe that will induce her to attack me on turn zero, so I can take some damage from these rune chants and then gain back the 4 life and block with my other cards, draw a new hand.
Mm-hmm.
But after I play the first Arcane Polarity, she decides to pass. And so I'm like, well, unless I draw a blue, my hand's going to be really bad, and it's probably going to be really bad even if I have a blue. And so I decide to play the second Arcane Polarity, but each of them, because I haven't taken any arcane damage, I'm only gaining 1 life. Um, but then I realized after playing it, I only have 2 cards, and now when she deals me the arcane damage, I'm not gaining the 4 life from either of the arcane polarities. So I really should not have played that second arcane polarity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because then she sent an attack for 7 into an
Rune
attack
chance.
for 4 plus 2 rune chance, and I think I took 5 or 6 damage on turn zero, which does not feel great when it's a 20 life format.
Nope.
Losing over a fourth of your life, before you really do anything. And so from there, I am on the back foot the whole game. Um, we're sort of going down in life totals in tandem throughout it, but she is definitely on the front foot. I am defending a lot, and she was really far ahead. I thought, okay, this is where it ends. This is where I lose. Um, but then she was low enough that I was dead on the next turn. I was able to send one last dominated attack. I think she was at 3 or 4, and she could only block with 1 card. She didn't have any armor, and she took exactly lethal.
Oof.
And that and that's how
That
I
those
win
feel
that
good.
won that game. And I didn't think I was going to win it until literally the moment I did.
So in retrospect, you think you should have just held that hand until either Ellie, you know, pulled the trigger, or just like worst case scenario, she doesn't pull the trigger, right? She just passes.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
think holding that hand and then being like, you know what, I'll pass back to you. I'll wait. Who blinks first,
Mhm.
and then pulling the trigger then?
No, I think I would have been okay to play the first arcane polarity.
Mm-hmm.
That was fine. But when she decided to not to attack at that point, I really don't think I should have played the second one. Because then I would have had a chance to draw blue, and then my hand would have been fine. And even if I had drawn a red, I still could have attacked with my weapon
Yeah,
and then
swing and
arsenaled
arsenal.
the arcane polarity and or one of the crush attack. And then it's like I'm not in the best position, but it's fine. But I think I just sort of overreacted to my hand being bad, and I got um, too focused in on um,
Trying to hand fix it.
trying, yeah, trying to fix it. And I by trying to fix it, I made the situation a lot worse than it was
Yeah.
initially.
Did you
But
pay attention to your first draw? Was it a blue? Would you have been fine with just the one? I don't know if you remember that. Such a small little
I
detail.
don't remember. I think I was a bit shell shocked
Yeah.
with how
That's probably
badly
better too,
the
because it would have been
first
even more salt in the wound if it was a blue on top.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, you made it through. Dominate's definitely fair and balanced. Um, and then what is this next? Is that so? That was top eight, top four. This is the last match.
Yeah, yeah. So then we're in the finals, and all of a sudden I have a PTI and $500. And really, the only prize difference between first and second place at the Battle Hardened was the gold foil legendary
Do you know what they pulled?
and bragging rights. They didn't open it.
Uh,
They didn't open
those
it, so I don't. I
resellers.
don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they were planning to sell it unopened or open it later, but they didn't
Yeah.
open it at the time, so I don't know what it was. Which in some ways is probably for the best, you know.
I mean, it could have been, if it was a bad card, you'd be like, haha. But yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, I think those cards sell more when they're unopened, unless obviously you get like a really big hit. But I don't know.
yeah, that's my
I would be
understanding
torn. I
too.
would be torn. If I
Think
won,
like
I feel like I'd want to open it and then just keep it as like a
yeah,
trophy. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, maybe I just sell it and make all my money back and put it back
yeah.
into the hobby.
Yeah, no, I mean that's probably the smart move. I think, especially for the first one I would get, I think I'd have to see what it is at least.
Yeah.
Last match was against Andrew Rothamel, who I think he was a um, finalist at US Nats last year. I think I could be wrong about that, but again, another really good player that is well known on chain again. I was able because there was I think it was a Guardian versus Fatigue Warrior matchup earlier in the top eight that took a long time, and so I was finished by with my match with Ellie before the match between the top four, so I was able to watch the top four between Rothamel's
So a little
chain
insider
deck and then
information.
the Lyra deck. And so I watched that to sort of see what the deck lists were like. Um, and then I sat down to play against Chain again. And again, I'm lower seed, so Chain is going first, which is a pretty big disadvantage. Um, and I think, if I remember correctly, I had a very similar moment. I don't think it was necessarily a CNC pummel, but I had a big pummel term that gave me um, momentum in the matchup, and you know, uh, he got up to like um six soul shackles, I think, and so he was fatiguing himself, and it got down to, I think I was at like 8 life.
Mm-hmm.
He was at 3 life, and he had an arsenal, a 4 card hand, and I think like 3 or 4 cards left in deck. So his entire deck was going to be banished
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of the next turn.
You could taste the victory.
And yeah, and so the only thing I had to do to win was to survive to my next turn. You know,
Yeah.
if he didn't win on his next turn, then I would win. And I had done some blocking on the other turn. On his previous turn, and I came into my last turn, um, with him on that setup of an arsenal, 4 card hand, 3 cards in deck, and I had a blue in hand and a fault line in arsenal, which is the CNC light card that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And my thought was to send the CNC, and just make him use up 2 of the cards to not die, 2 cards to block, and then he'd start his turn. He'd banish the rest of his deck. He'd have some cards in banish he could use, but then in his hand he'd only have 2 cards in hand, one in arsenal, or 3 cards in hand and no arsenal.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like I'm in such a good position, looking back on it now, that I think I rushed. I didn't really fully think through what was going on, and I sent the attack. The problem with that is he had um, Sage, is known as a format bereft of good D reacts, but that isn't really true for Runeblade. Runeblade has um, you know, uh, reduce to rune chant,
Mm-hmm.
which blocks 4 and can make a rune chant as long as you have a rune chant to begin with. Uh, and then they also have, I think it's Sigil of Suffering, which blocks for 3 and will block for 4 if you take the 1 damage it deals you. Um, and I knew he had those in his deck, and the entire deck list was face up, besides the 3 cards in his deck, 4 cards in hand, one in arsenal. And I knew he had, a total of those 4 racks in his list.
Mm-hmm.
I could have looked through the graveyard, looked through the banished, figured out, okay, he has 2 reacts left. One reduce, one sigil. And they're either in his deck, in his hand, in his arsenal. And
So
if
basically a
they are in
50-50.
his hand, what?
Basically a 50-50 at that point with the deck count in his hand.
Yeah, probably more slightly favored to be in his hand. But if they're in his hand or his arsenal, um, uh, then he blocks my attack with those, and which are cards that he wouldn't be able to use on his turn for offense.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of doing that, um, he's able to block with the one reduce and one sigil to block out my attack. Deal me 1 damage. I don't have any resources, so I can't AP it, so I take 1 on my turn.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, he makes a rune chant, which allows him to send an attack on the next turn that he wouldn't be able to have sent if he wasn't able to make the rune chant with the reduced to rune. Um, and so um, if I had taken a moment to reflect, figured out, okay, what are his outs?
Uh-huh.
Um, I could have realized, oh, his out are getting value from those um, uh, D reacts. And instead of attacking, which is, so like straightforward in this game, like, why would you not
Yeah,
attack? I could
obviously.
have just done nothing and passed the turn, and I think I would have won.
Yeah.
But that's a really hard play to make. So
You have
I
to be
don't want to
very,
judge
very
myself too
present for those
harshly
kinds
on
of decisions.
Um, I will say, as soon as I played the attack, I was like, oh no, he has D reacts. Like that immediately as soon as I made the decision.
Like
So
moment
I
of
think it
clarity.
was a really good learning moment for me to, when I'm in those high pressure moments and I feel so close to winning and, you feel like you want to just rush through, to take a moment, think things through, and make sure that what you're doing is the correct decision. And I think that's what sort of separates, real good players from the pro players that play that they're able to take those beats and really assess things in those moments, and it's hard
Yeah,
to
and
do.
I'm sure it's also like a little bit of experience too. Like I don't know how many top tables
Yeah,
you've been at, but I was at my like the top four at my PQ, and I had people watching me, and I was like, oh, so that's what this feels like. So
yeah,
yeah, you get a little bit more. I think when I was doing like not at all comparable, but when I was doing my pro quest stuff, I was like, yeah, I felt like I played my last game at the local a little fast, and I think I see like a similarity right there. Like you saw the finish
yeah,
line, and you're just like, I'm sprinting, I got this, and you gave yourself a trail horse right at the end.
yeah. Um, No, I mean although what was interesting about that is because the finals of the calling were happening at the same time. And so there were a bunch of people around watching a match, but it wasn't the battle hardened finals. It was the calling finals. And so it was actually there wasn't really people watching, which was interesting
Oh,
given like how
that's
high
crazy.
stakes of a
They lined up
game it
exactly the
was,
same
you
times.
know? But this was so far beyond my expectations going into the tournament, um that I was so excited, and it's been just kind of surreal, honestly,
Yeah,
the whole time since then.
that's good. I mean, I'm happy for you. Proud that we got another local making waves. May not be a win yet, but don't worry, I got you guys. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure one of you guys will top one of the ones coming up. Too bad we can't go to the one in Portland because our RTN's on the same day.
Yeah.
LSS. If you watch this, can we move our RTN to like another week? That'd be great. But yeah, because we're getting our RTN and the next Battle Hardened that's out here is on the same exact weekend. But yeah, and
Unfortunate.
you're like a trailblazer right now. You're top two and one of the first few Sage events, and obviously everything's going to be flipped on its head come February. But
Hmm.
I'm sure it's going to have the skeleton of what's going on right
Yeah.
now. You know, like they're gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not a game designer. I'm hardly even good at games, but I'm sure there's going to be some course correction for the format. Hopefully, try to level the field. I don't know if it's unbalanced, but it does feel like there's the obvious front runners.
Yeah,
We've
it's
got the Bravo,
Runeblade and Guardian.
Chain, Briar, Ira. So I'm curious if that's going to change or they're just going to give everybody more tools to fight each other and it just be the same top four, but with just different strategies and maybe a different order. All right, so we got your deck tech up here now. Obviously, you're playing Bravo, Flattering Showwoman, and you got the Blade Beckoner suite and some Civic Steps. Pretty
Hmm.
standard equipment suite. I don't think too crazy there. We'll got just for the people who might be coming in to find their next deck for Sage. Let's go over Bravo and what makes Bravo so flattering.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've sort of talked about it. With You can set a card face down in your arsenal and give it dominate, which is very powerful. In a 20 life format, a format that has fewer D reacts. Um, and you only need to do that a few times before you eat through all their equipment and then theoretically win. I heard from a bunch of people who were playing Bravo or playing against Bravo that it really did feel like a young version of Starvo, more than the original Bravo. Obviously, Starvo is much better, but in terms of Sage, it does have a similar cadence to the game feel of just having these giant dominated attacks that are relatively easy to set up and then send out.
Okay, and then we got the blade beckoner, like we already mentioned.
Yeah.
This is just the best blocking equipment in the field right now. I'm pretty sure unless you're a rune blade doing rune blade stuff, right?
Yeah, I will say so. I originally um, you know, there were some other there are Um, in Mastery Pack Guardian, there are several common equipment that some Bravo lists were using. They only block one, but then they have an ability. One makes seismic tokens, and then the other one you can pay 3 into it to pump your next attack by 2, I think. I tried those out, and I just didn't think you really got the value out of them very much. You usually only got the one value out of them. Making the seismic surge, it was really difficult to set that up. You have a really set cost curve in this shell, where you have a lot of four cost attacks, and so it costs 2 blues along with the hero text to send a dominated attack, and getting that -2, then you're still playing 4. It's still costing 4, so that's still 2 cards. So getting the 2 seismic surge tokens don't really matter.
Yeah.
In this deck, it might be different for other guardians. The other thing that's different, um, there's also some of the sideboard equipment. I made some choices that were different there as well. Um, One is I originally had in the sideboard I forget the name of it, but the Civic chess piece,
Uh huh.
which basically is a temper 2, so you get 3 block out of it,
Yeah.
and whenever you block, your opponent gets a vigor, which gives them a resource on the next turn, which is honestly not a good trade, giving them a resource for the one
Yeah.
extra block value most of the time. But people have been using it for against Ira specifically, because of how Kodachis work. Because when uh, most of their turns start off with sending Kodachi for 1 and pitching a blue, and
Yeah.
Kodachi's you need to have it in the pitch to get the go again. And so if you give them a resource, unless they have something else to use that resource, they can, they're stuck. They
Oh,
can't
I see what you're
attack with
saying. Yeah, that's pretty
Kodachis.
clever.
It's very cute, and when it works, it's really game breaking. But about half the time, they'll have a different go again attack that they can use the resource for anyway to start off, and then they can attack with their Kodachis. In which case, the vigor is actually really helpful to them.
Yeah, and then they go
So
even
I
wider.
found Yeah, so I found even though the times when it worked, you felt really smart. The times when it didn't work, you felt really dumb. I did have it in until the last night. I decided, originally I was only running AB1 for Rune Blades. There really isn't much of a presence for wizards in this format. At the last minute, I took out the Civic chess piece from the sideboard and added in a second piece of AB, and that was mainly out of fear at my because I played a Kano in a side event the night
Uh huh.
before the battle hardened, and I lost because I had
In
AB
Sage?
one in Sage, which Kano is not good. But when you have AB one, maybe Kano,
Maybe
maybe
Kano
Kano is good.
can squeak it out.
Yeah, and so I kind of just added the second AB
Let's not.
last
Let's. I'm
minute
gonna
out
cut
of
that. I'm
fear.
cutting that. I don't want. I don't want Kano and Sage. Let's not let everybody know that. We just got rid of him in CC. We don't need to terrorize it again.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the good thing about Sage is you can vote him out if you want to.
Yeah, but I'm only one man. But yeah, that's crazy. I never even would have imagined a wizard would would do it. Maybe they just got you by surprise. Maybe it's not good. It's definitely not good. They just got lucky. They got lucky.
It's definitely not good if you have more than one AB, but you have to have more than one AB.
Yeah.
At least in that one game. And then the other thing I have in the sideboard Anathos, that is for the Guardian Mirror, because you want to save the deck damage for fatigue game plan. Um, the other fatigue, the main fatigue weapon that people are playing is actually Sledge, which is very similar. It just costs 4 and it attacks for 6, whereas this it costs 3. Um, it attacks for 4, but if you have 2 cards in your pitch with 3 or greater, it gains 2. The reason why Anathos works in this deck um, is that better than Sledge is that you can always choose to get the second card in your pitch by activating your hero ability, because the way that Bravo works is that you can activate the hero ability even if there isn't a card in your pitch. And so if you want your Anathos to attack for
Ah,
6, you can activate Bravo, pitch a card, pitch a second card to attack, and then it's coming into 6. And that's the same as if you were paying 4 into the Sledge. But then it also gives you the option, if you only have a single blue, to still attack with 4. Whereas if you have the other weapon and it costs 4 to attack for 6, then you just can't
yeah, that's a nice
attack.
little bit of tech. Yeah. It's kind of like
Um,
the I just comparing it to the only thing I know, Syndra. It's like when you turn 0, activate Syndra with nothing in, no daggers to get back, just to cycle your hand.
yeah.
Same concept, but
Same
more
concept.
more use
Um,
cases probably.
I will say that there was a lot of Guardian in the field, and I did not play against a single Guardian the whole tournament. So I
Yeah, you just
never brought.
let them slug it out against each other, and you'll just walk your way to the
Yeah,
finish line.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so I never got to test that theory, but that was the idea behind Anathos specifically. Yeah,
And
and then
then
Civic Steps, which is just a really good card. You have to be careful when you use it. You just use it, um, when you know that they can't use the go again. That they, it's their second to last attack of the turn, and so you block with it then. So then they either, if they don't attack to save the quicken to use it the next turn, then they're just not attacking and not and like possibly IPing themselves. Um, and so it's basically free if you're really careful when you use it.
got it. Yeah, I'm seeing a little theme here of a little. You're trying to be a little tricky, but also like yeah, you're making them you're making them answer questions when you're blocking. So you're taking a little bit of risk, but calculated. Then we got the steel buckler. It's a shield. I don't. And Titan's fist. I think if you're watching this video, you know what this is.
Yeah.
Pretty basic. Obviously, one of the best hammers or guardian weapons in the game, CC or Sage, regardless. And then let's jump into the actual deck. So it looks like we got a 34 main board and we got 15 sideboard. So we'll start at the top. And if you want me to jump around, just let me know.
Yeah.
We got the boulder drop, 2 of.
Yeah, so Boulder Drop, they just added in the red. Um, Obviously, this deck has a really low red count because you need a really high blue count because you are really, for your big dominated attacks, you're pitching 6 resources into them most of the time, 5 or 6 resources.
Yeah.
And even when you're pitching 5 resources, it's 2 whole cards, so it's basically the same. Um,
So basically, if
and
I
this one,
understand that concept right, we just want to make sure that when we do draw these reds, we can use them, and we can use them effectively.
yes, yeah, yeah. You definitely don't want all red hands in this
Which
deck.
I guess
Very,
statistically can happen a couple times a game.
it can happen. It is unlikely, but it can. I think it happened a couple of times throughout the whole tournament. But Boulder Drop, it's a really good on crush effect of getting rid of card, and basically the best thing you can do in this deck is pummel either a Boulder Drop or um, one of a fault line. Really is the two things, because then that gets rid of 2 of their cards theoretically, and gives you the tempo in the game, and it's hard for them to come back from you pummeling one of those two, especially. Choke slam. Uh, there. You're wanting to run the 4 costs, all the 4 costs, because it really fits into your curve. Because you have to pay 2 resources into your hero ability, so having the 4 costs, it's just 1 more damage, regardless of whether the on hit is good. The on hit in this is most relevant against the field against Azalea, because obviously they're pumping big arrows. Um, it does have relevance
Ira.
against some heroes. It's not really relevant about Ira because it only affects attack action cards, so they can just attack with their Kodachis twice and still get the pump from Ira. So it does have some use cases elsewhere. It can be annoying, but the only place where it's really backbreaking is really Azalea.
I didn't look at the spread. I know we just kind of skimmed over it. Did you play any azaleas?
Yeah, I did. I played. I think in the 6th or 7th round, I played against an Azalea,
And you obviously
and
won.
I won. I ended up fatiguing the Azalea, but it was, very stressful. One highlight from that game is that they sent a 14 attack dominated arrow, and I had a 7 block D react in Arsenal and a 7 D react block in hand, and so I was able to block 14 and completely block out the arrow, and I still had a card left in hand to attack with my weapon after.
Man, sometimes it's
Um,
nice to be God's favorite.
yeah. So debilitate is also really good. It's just if the on crush gives you two
Yeah.
extra value, and also kind of can mess with their sequencing um, of
Yeah.
what they want to
Basically a
send
10 value
first.
card right there.
Yeah, if you're able to get it off, and actually 12 if it's dominated.
It's true.
You know, because it gets the
That
plus two.
sounds like
So
about even more than half of somebody's life. That definitely
yep,
seems pretty good.
certainly can
We
be.
already went a fault line, and then we got pummels, pretty staple. I'm surprised that these are legal. I'm curious if
Yeah,
they will be
yeah,
changed come February. Like
that's
I don't. I mean,
fair.
at their core, I don't think they're broken, but like it seems very strong React in this format.
Yeah, and there are a lot of pummels flying around
Yeah,
in the top 8 and throughout the whole event. Um, so yeah, that's the entire red base of the deck, and
and
then the
then we got
blues we
Act
can
of
go through.
Glory.
Yeah, so I'm running 2 Act of Glory and 2 of the other Suspense Aura, the 3 cost.
Edge of their
Yeah, Edge
seats.
of their seats. And the reason for this is that you are actually very rarely playing these cards. You are literally only playing them on turn 0, mostly when you go first.
Yeah,
If you get a hand where you get one of these, you can play them out, arsenal a crush card and then set up a really big dominated attack in 2 turns, getting that pump, and that's kind of like your high roll potential of this
Yeah.
deck.
And then there's
Um,
and on average it's just a blue block 3.
Yeah, and then it's just a blue block 3 that you can pitch with. But it's almost never better to play one of these out later in the game than to attack with something else, attack with your weapon, do anything
Yeah.
else, block with them. But uh, they can set up really well on turn 0, and sometimes depending on what the opponent does in turn 0, you can even play them on turn 0 on your opponent's turn. Um,
It's true.
but those are their purpose, and it's very limited, but it's very strong when that does work.
Yeah. I mean, you see those in your opening hand, you're probably like, I'll take 3 extra damage and set up.
It depends, but yeah, you certainly can. And then the rest, it's basically almost every crush card,
Yeah,
because you just need
another
it.
blue boulder drop. Same thing,
Yeah.
but and then we got buckling blow.
Which, again, the crush doesn't really matter. It's in this, it's just a crush card, so you'd rather arsenal a red, but you're fine arsenaling a blue crush card and getting the same effect.
Yeah, because I mean, at
Um,
worst you're forcing armor because otherwise, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you can still force armor out of it, which they cover the damage, but you're just getting the value, they're forcing the value out of it.
yeah.
Maybe when they don't want it. And we got cartilage crush, blue. 4 more damage to the hero. Their first action during their next turn costs an additional 1 cost. That being a ninja player, I know that sucks, but I don't think it's as bad in Sage. But it definitely
No, it's
adds
not
up.
as
Definitely adds
bad,
up.
and this is a blue one that isn't in other lists. I do think, especially against like Ira. Well, no, especially against Briar. That's really annoying because Briar has a really, like, it's basically pitchless,
Uh huh.
and so adding any pitch whatsoever can be
Essentially
really
hand
difficult
disruption.
for Briar. Yeah, yeah. Um, um, but there are certainly a lot of heroes where that on hit is not the most relevant.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, still blue block 3. Another
Yeah,
blue block 3 choke slam. Blue block 3 crush confidence. What does this one do? They lose all hero card abilities at the end of the turn. That seems
yeah.
relevant.
I will say, in the final match, I did get a crush with this card,
Uh huh.
which stopped him from making a soul shackle and getting go again chain on their next turn, and so that was good.
Yeah. And then we got debilitate, blue, same as the one we already talked about. Disable, 4 more damage to a hero. Put a card on their arsenal on the bottom of the deck. Yep, basically just more inherent value. And I mean, it's a 7 attack. I mean, it's 5. Have you ever swung this for 5?
Um, yes, it's hard to send it dominated. But yeah, I've definitely sent
7
it
damage is
just
still 7 damage.
yeah. hmm
And then we already talked about edge of their seats. And we got flatten the field.
This is the one where it's like the most there is no card text.
Yeah,
It maybe could be relevant in a Guardian Mirror, but
yeah. For
otherwise
all the
it's literally
Valdas
just
that are running around.
card. Yeah,
But yeah, and there's another
there
blue
were a
block
couple.
3, and at worst, 4 for 6. But probably for you, it'd be a 6 for 8 with dominate.
Dominate.
So
Yeah.
still pretty good.
Yeah.
Grind them down. It's another crush effect. Deck damage, yeah, fatigue, but probably
Yeah.
still mostly a blue block 3.
Yeah. Most relevant for Chain because they really need to utilize every card in their deck,
Uh huh.
to get over that line. So, just removing any card can be kind of disruptive to them, but
Yeah,
not as
and then
relevant for
obviously
other heroes.
if you're dominating it with the +2, and
Yeah.
they're basically taking the damage every time unless they have the D reacts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then classic Macho Grande.
Hmm.
This is a 7 for 8 automatic dominate though.
Yep.
I assume, I don't know. Imagine you'd have to have that'd be like a turn 0 throw. I assume, I would imagine.
Yeah, turn zero throw is when it's at its best. Most of the time, it's easier because you're sending, you know, 6 for 8 dominate
Yeah,
with, your hero ability. So most of the time, you can do better than Marcho Grande by one resource. But on turn zero or, um, you know, um, other times, it's just sort of like a Guardian staple.
yeah. And then we got the arcane polarity, which you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
For the people who skipped straight to the deck tech, shame on you. But regardless, you're using this for basically chain and briar.
Yep, rune blades. It would be for wizards too if run into any wizards.
There are no
Wizards isn't
wizards. There
really
are no wizards.
right.
And then we got the crash and bash in your sideboard.
Yeah, so this is mostly a 4 block. Um, the ability basically saves you from one resource, but with your cost curve being so set, getting that one discount often is not relevant.
Uh huh.
Um, uh, and so it's mostly just a 4 block.
Got it. I have a feeling that this kind of card will be replaced come February, I would imagine.
Maybe, yeah.
But I could be wrong. I don't know anything. And then we got staunch response.
Yeah, so these are big D-React package. You bring them in to Azalea and the Guardian Mirror for, things with Dominate where you need one card to block a lot. I mean, pretty much every hero that has, blues are playing these in their sideboards to help deal with those
That is
matchups.
an
The
insane.
other thing
That is an
that's
insane defense reaction like value. Even if you don't do
yeah,
the extra 4, just a 2 for 7 block, that's insane. So basically, it's a
yeah,
two card
most of
7
the time
block.
you are just doing it for the 7.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll pay into it, but most of the time not. The other thing with this D-React specifically, I also side them in with against Chain because Chain has big attacks and what you can do there is when you pitch a blue to pay for this to block it, they're usually sending rune chants, and so you can AB one of the rune chants, and so it's a 2 card 8 if you're able to get all of the block value.
That's some fab math right there. Yeah, that's. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even know this card existed until I'm looking at it right now. That's an insane block.
Yeah.
I don't play. I don't play Guardian outside of a just a couple of Armory deck back and forths. But and then we got Unmovable,
Yep. Same thing. Just a
another
big,
three
big
for seven.
D-Rack.
So 2 card 7, and then actually probably on average probably a 2 card 8 block.
Most of the time it's a 7, because Arsenal real estate is pretty premium in this deck because you want to get your crush cards in there. Um, but
That's true.
sometimes it is 8.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about how the Guardian would play that differently. And then we got Clash of Arms.
The effect on this is very irrelevant because it only triggers in the Guardian Mirror. It's mostly just a yellow block 4 card, which is good because you can, if you have a 3 cost, so your main use case for it is blocking 4. But if you have a 3 cost crush card in your arsenal, and you only have one blue in your hand and one of these, you can use your hero ability to pitch this card to attack with your crush. Um, and so um, that's why these these cards are. And a big difference on the list is how many, because there's um, a Clash of Arms had space,
Yeah.
whatever, for each of the slots, and so it's one of the deck building decisions is how many of these do you play. So
Yeah. And then it
that's
brings us to the last clash of heads, which we basically just talked on. Um, so you're coming in with 34 on your main board, and something I learned when I started like testing Sage is you have to have exactly 40. You can't even go over.
Yep. Yep.
So for the other dumb people out there like me, um, you're missing 6 cards. What are your most common? I'm throwing these in. If I'm brain off, I'm not thinking. I'm throwing these 6 cards in.
So just um bring in all the 4 blocks.
Got it. So that's
Um,
4, and then
yeah.
yeah. So crash and bash, clash of arms, and then the clash of heads.
Yeah.
And then obviously,
Uh,
I think even me and the other people out there realize when you bring in arcane polarity, that's against
yeah.
arcane damage people. And then
And
you're
it's
just bringing in
not
staunch response against what is your main? Is that mainly like
Azalea
chain
and
and
Guardian Mirror
guardian
for the
players?
most part. Yeah,
Got
and
it.
I also bring it into chain along with the 2 yellow 4 blocks.
I
For the
like
reason that I
take this
described
with a grain
earlier.
of salt, but I feel like that would probably be good against most decks, just because like I feel like most decks in the format are running pummel, and you're just like, okay, you pummeled that. Here you go.
Well, you have Briar, which is typically a bunch of 4 go agains,
Uh
and
huh.
so it's not really good there. You have Ira, which some doesn't really it can, but doesn't really go
Yeah,
tall.
I've seen
And
Iris
also
go
when
like
you're
seven
yeah,
attack.
they can. But when you think about it, in regards the 4 blocks, if you can play them, are more flexible to block
Yeah.
because you're like, let's say you have 2 of the clash cards, or
Hmm.
you have one staunch response in a blue. You're blocking 7 or 8, so you're getting the same
Yeah.
value, but with the
You're
black
not being
cards you can
forced to use
split
two
them up,
cards.
and yeah, you can split them up. And so in a lot of matchups where you aren't when you aren't having big dominated attacks where you can block with multiple cards, it can be clunky. And if you draw multiple of the big D reacts in your hand, they become awkward really fast.
Yeah. And
So
at least with
there
these
are
two clash of the
downsides.
heads, they're yellow. So if you did pull 2 of them, you could still pitch to.
Yeah, attack with your weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I see a 35 list of maybes. I don't know. We'll go
Yeah.
all over this, but is this just what you were moving up and down while you were prepping for it, like the night before?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, probably before the night before, but you'll see a lot of there are cards that fit all the same slots of things that are in the deck.
Hmm.
Different crush cards, some of the different armor options in the slots.
Yeah, the civic set that you were
Um,
talking about.
yeah, the Civic Duty was the card that I was talking about that was in my list until the night before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then so you came in second. You're this close to glory.
Yeah.
Well, I would say you still got the glory. But
Yeah.
do you have you revised your list at all? Anything you want to leak for the upcoming people who might have some Sage events before February? Anything that you think that I think if I swapped this out, it would have been slightly better. Or you think like this was at least at this current moment, you think is the
Yeah.
best
I
40 you could
think
run.
really the only change that I would make at this point, and it depends on what people's local meta is, of course. But it's a pretty set deck list. But in the sideboard, I think I would take out the crash and bashes
Uh huh.
because its effect is just not relevant in this deck, and replace them with 2 more copies of the yellow uh,
Clash.
block cards, just because you can use them to pitch, and so they're a little bit more flexible than
Got
a
it.
red
Yeah,
block card.
that makes sense. Yeah, because the amount of times you're probably throwing, revealing a card. I mean, I guess you could for that one reduced resource, but it's a lot more conditional than, hey, my hand didn't line up, but at least I have two more pitch here, so I need a
Yeah.
yellow and a red to swing
I mean, it's
hammer.
really easy to activate Crash and Bash. Like, you'll almost always have a Crush card in your hand, but ha- having that resource be meaningful in any way, it pretty rarely is meaningful at all.
Yeah, I understand that. That makes sense. So yeah, basically just a small little adjustment, and you too can top two a battle hardened. Yeah, it's a pretty solid deck. I will be afraid of playing this in a couple weeks, or playing against this in a couple weeks when we have our local little win a box Sage event. I think you got a target on your back, so
Probably, probably.
you and probably Drew, because now he's gonna play that Reiner deck you told him about.
Yes, he is, and I am scared of the Rhinar deck.
Yeah, good. We could all be scared of something.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that about wraps it up. Did you have anything you'd like to drop? Any socials? Anything you'd like to say to your fans and family and followers?
Yeah. So, I do have socials. I don't post on there very often. I'm Amanda Sullender, Sullender on Blue Sky, and I think I'm just Sullender Amanda on Twitter. Um, and so people want to look there. I'll probably repost this video, and then you can also read. I have an article there about my experience at nationals earlier this year. Really my first really big tournament for Flesh and Blood, and people can read that if they're interested in that.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, so I'll put links to all that stuff in the doobly doo. I really appreciate you taking the time, and once again, I'm proud of you. Another local making it big. But congratulations on everything, and I'm sure next time it'll be even better.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.
All right. Thanks again to Amanda, the flattering showwoman, for taking the time to go over her deck and review her experience with me. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure a few people, at least, are appreciative as well. If you want to go and give her a follow on Blue Sky or Twitter, all of that's going to be in the doobly-doo, the description. I don't know what all the cool kids call it these days, but it's going to be down below the video. So go give her a follow, and feel free to hit her up for a conversation. If you've made it this far, you can consider yourselves a true No Blocks OG, and you are appreciated. But aside from that, until next time, I'm Robert, and this has been No Blocks.